Live.
Powder my nose, and we're all good.
Yeah, D powders
Sweet.
his nose. We'll be ready to go.
Good deal. All right, so we have about a minute before we're going to start. So let's just do some sound check. Can I get everybody to just say a couple words? Elb, can we sound check you, please?
Mic check, 1, 2. Mic check. 1, 2.
Always, every time. I can't deal with the Elb. You need a new thing.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing.
Oh, you guys are gonna be the death of me. All right, go ahead, D.
Tra-la-la-la.
Oh, yeah, we've got. So Elb has gotten a promotion apparently to King because he is currently Delethorus and D is Elber.
I knew it was
here.
going to happen.
Oh God, I can feel half my brain getting sucked out as we speak.
Kneel, peasants!
Oh, good times. All right, so Nas, you got that under control.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, now Elbereth is a piece of wood.
Yes.
Much
What's
better.
that? I've
All
got
right.
wood now?
All right, so let's
I've been
go
drinking
ahead.
too much apple juice tonight. Sorry. I
Seriously,
apologize.
yeah, that Soulbound Studios apple juice. All right,
Yeah,
it
no
is.
can.
It is 8 o'clock, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started officially. So welcome, everybody, to the Boardwall Broadcasting Company second live stream. And we're going to go ahead. I'm going to remind you guys about our contest. So if you are here right now, you are going to be able to enter our contest for 100 EP. And to do that, we're just going to be giving you a code phrase, which will be popping up in the Twitch chat over here momentarily. And you are basically trying to enter with your most clever or funny phrase. So we decided after last stream, which were fantastic, to limit it to about 50 words because we had a veritable novel sent to us, and it's hard to kind of read that and run a live stream at the same time. So the code, as you can see over there, is Mrs. Jones has put the empty kettle on the stove. Again, it is Mrs. Jones has put the empty kettle on the stove. So yes, anybody can enter that. Just click the Google form. It will not collect any of your personal information. Let us know if you win who you want us to send the EP to. Without further ado, our topic for the night is Illyria Mud, which is now known as VoxElyria or VOE. And we're hoping to help that new name catch on because everybody in the community, for the most part, is still kind of calling it Illyria Mud. So it is VoxElyria now. And before we get into tonight's topic, I want it to be understood that this is pre-alpha, this is pre-actual gameplay. A lot of what we are going to be talking about could be subject to change. So for as much as we're going to be talking about our ideas and what's already out there, just understand that that could be information that changes at some point down the road. So first of all, Elbereth, can you tell us a little bit about your experience? I heard that you've had some experiences with MUDs before, like the old classic MUDs.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you know about MUDs, and what do you think we might see in the VoxElyria, which used to, of course, be Illyria Mud, that will be drawn from those traditional MUDs?
All right, so MUD stands for Multi-User Dungeon, and what they were basically MMORPGs, but in text form. And aside from some ASCII art and occasionally, a little bit of just simple graphics, they were almost completely text-based. However, the thing about MUDs, for the most part, they were very similar to MMOs. You'd choose a character, you'd choose what they looked like, you would choose a class, you would choose a race, and then you would go out into a world and you would fight with either PvE or PvP. And so in a lot of ways, they're a precursor to MMORPGs as we know them. Interestingly enough, the first MMORPGs, not the first, but some of the first graphical ones, for example, like Ultima Online and EverQuest, they were actually called graphical MUDs before the name MMORPG caught on. So with that in mind, basically what a MUD is, it's a text-based MMORPG, and pretty much anything that you can do, you could do in an MMORPG could be done in a MUD. The only difference really is that it's text-based instead of graphics-based. So what that says about what, the Illyria MUD or what, VoxElyria might come out to be is that it can really have just about everything that you consider as part of an MMORPG. It can have all those aspects to it. An additional point is that for MUDs, a lot of times in MUDs, a big part of it was scripting. So writing out code that would basically allow your character or whatever to do a bunch of different actions. And it was really easy, especially when it was done in the text-based world, because the commands for the games tended to be so simple. They tended to be keystrokes. For example, if you wanted to move north in the game, you would push N and then hit Enter, and it would move you north. And so you could basically create scripts that would add in keystrokes, and you could have your character move from one side of the world to the other. You could have scripts that would allow your character to do combat without you really having to give it any input. You could make scripts for just about anything. So I think that might give some clues as to what scripts might be like in Illyria.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if this might even be some of the place that we start to practice OPC script, since that's gonna be a really important aspect of the game. So I'm definitely curious about what we'll see that'll be in common, because we've seen some new footage. Originally it was supposed to be more of this text-based stuff that you were just talking about, Albert. That was kind of what everybody was expecting. Noslim,
yeah.
Can you show us some of the footage that was released about VoxElyria and maybe give us like a little bit of a play-by-play as to what we're seeing here?
Yeah, we have the video that was released from COE SBS regarding what was at the time Illyria MUD. But and you can get it from their YouTube channel. But what's really cool about this is you can see that the movement of your character in VoxElyria is actually affecting the movement of your character in the actual COE client. So that's something we all have to remember here. When we're playing this silly little, some people have called it Minecraft looking VoxElyria, what we do in there actually affects our characters in the COE client. So the MUD is essentially a lightweight version of COE, in that we'll be testing all these mechanics, and you see them on the screen. They're jumping up and down, jumping over houses and stuff. I hope our real characters can't actually jump houses in COE, but I think that for the most part, you have to understand that we'll be testing all the early mechanics, the back end, so to speak, if you will, and they'll be associated with this light-end graphical client that we're affectionately calling VoxElyria. So you've got these guys jumping all over houses here and whatnot, but so I mean that's going to be fun for us to move our little characters around and whatnot. But the big takeaway here is we'll be testing the back end. We'll be testing all those features and all those mechanics that they're wanting to introduce into this game, and we as a player base will be right there with boots on the ground, with our hands in everything that's being implemented in this game, and that's what's exciting to me, is all the new features that they've wanted to bring to COE. We're going to see implemented firsthand, and we'll be providing feedback on those features as we go through VoxElyria.
Thanks for that, Noslim. Yeah, I mean, I think that this is such an interesting opportunity because we've never seen anything like this in any game before, in any studio doing anything like this, where we get kind of a pre-game game that we can get in and actually help them develop things. So I think that's really going to be interesting. Now, Delethris, I know that we've had some conversations before about what was before the MUD and is now VoxElyria. Your perception of this has changed drastically as the studio has made updates. So can you share some of that thought process that you've had or feelings that you've had as we've seen this transition occur from the studio?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I just want to check that my my sound is still okay because I'm on a really bad con tonight.
Yep, sounds good, bud.
Alrighty, awesome. Well, when I first started looking at Chronicles of Illyria, it was around about April, May of last year before the Kickstarter. And I was reading up on it and kind of like the different things that would be coming, and then the Kickstarter came out, and I was reading about the different packages, and that if you got so and so, that it would include the mud. And I was kind of like, yeah, muds. I'm an old goat. I turn 60 next year, and I've had my share of muds. And I was like, nah, some people might enjoy that, and it's great that the studio is bringing it out, and allowing some interaction. But I'll pass on that bit. It was of zero interest to me. Then I heard that Kingdoms of Illyria was going to piggyback on the mud, and I was going to have to play the mud in order to play the Kingdoms of Illyria, which was important for the kingdom. And I was like, basically, oh fuck, now I'm going to have to play this fucking text-based game that I really don't have much interest in, but I need to do it for our community. And then I forget at what point it was. It was earlier on this year that Caspian was chatting with us, and he said that they might change it and make it kind of like top-down graphics and sprites, and kind of like, I was like, okay, well, that sounds cool. I can now get on board with it, but I wasn't excited. And then when he came out and they showed kind of like, the voxel thing, I was like, fuck yeah, this is going to be brilliant. And what amazed me probably more than anything else is that I've been asked by a multitude of my friends to play Minecraft, and I'm like, fuck no. God, what a horrible looking game. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole kind of thing. So, why is it that I'm excited about VoxElyria? Is it the fact that it shows that there's we've made a milestone and we're just that one more step closer to development? Is it the fact that we're actually going to be able to be game testing stuff? Is it the fact that I've been involved in quite a number of pre-launch communities in alpha testing and beta testing, and normally the kind of like the phases between the different alphas and everything, because they had to build everything, we would normally typically get put into one section of the world and asked to test one thing, and then the devs were busy working on the 3D models and everything like that for the next thing. It could take months before you got the next alpha test. On this one, it's almost going to be, they're just going to be introducing almost like the mechanics. And I feel that we're almost getting kind of like a head start on kind of like on the alpha. This is basically, Chronicles of Illyria Light, so to speak, at least from a graphics point of view. And that has me really excited about participating in it.
Yeah, and from what I understand, and obviously this is always subject to change, but the last thing that I was looking at said that, VoxElyria is right around the corner right now, and they're going to kind of roll it out to the alpha backers first, according to what I read. And then it'll be right around the corner for everybody else. It looks like they're hoping to get that out in early 2018 for everybody. So that's exciting. So it's looking like the main function of VoxElyria is going to be testing these major features of the game, and allowing this opportunity for the community to give Soulbound Studios kind of some feedback about the mechanics and what's working and what's not, which I think is really awesome, an opportunity that we usually don't get as gamers, to that degree. But according to one of the developer journals and kind of how it's been modified over in the wiki, it'll be used to model player interaction in the game, which we could see from the footage how the systems link up. VoxElyria will deploy the important multiplayer mechanics of the game. So I'm curious, and I will start with my opinion here, but I want to know from the three of you what you're most looking forward to testing through VoxElyria. So we will get into Kingdoms a little bit later, but VoxElyria, this base system where we're just getting to kind of mess around and test things out. For me, I'm really wanting to try the different tribe mechanics. So I am... in every fandom that I'm a part of, I'm always obsessed with like the races, or in this case, the tribes. And it looks like that's something that they're wanting to implement here, is us being able to test out. I think I read something that specifically said, like, come in and, every time that you are playing around with it, test a different tribe. roll in a new family and see how that works out for you. So I'm hoping that we're going to see some really deep mechanics coming out where we'll be able to really play test how fatigue works for the different tribes in different biomes, how potentially, I don't know, maybe we'll see how food consumption is going to work for those different tribes. Maybe we're going to see how they do socially interact, how the languages play out. And so that's what I'm really excited. And Naz, do you have a picture of the tribes that you can throw up here for anybody who hasn't seen this graphic?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you can see these tribes here. You know, I'm hoping we'll get the extra 4, so we know that during the actual COE launch, you know, we're gonna have the 8, and then the other 4 we're gonna have to go out and find. I'm curious to see if we might be able to play around with them in VoxElyria to see what their mechanics are gonna be like. But either way, I'm just excited to play them. I'm gonna play Dross, I'm gonna play Kipik, I'm gonna play Janella, I might play Niran, Mudari. I'm just gonna play it all. So, Dee, what are you most looking forward to? Because we know I can go off on the role-playing deep end in a hot second, and we don't want that right now.
I think what I'm looking forward to the most in the VoxElyria part of it is the deeper end of crafting, and by that I mean the research and development. I'm really, really interested to see how this evolves, how it develops, how crafting interacts and contributes to research and development, and then seeing how, you know, the difference between kind of like how guilds handle research and development and how schools, universities handle research and development. And you'll have to forgive me, I forget the name, but I believe there's a third type of organization as well. And how they can, you know, will they be able to kind of like, or what mechanics will be in place to be able to change and barter for different information as regards to research and development. That's really what tickles me and has me kind of like really waiting with anticipation for it.
Awesome. So what about you, Nazlim?
Why are you picking on me? No, I'm excited about all of it, and like there is no one particular thing that I'm looking forward to most. I'm looking forward to all the features that are on that big massive list that everyone talks about. You know, SBS is never going to pull off all these features they're trying to implement into this game. Well, during VoxElyria, during Kingdoms of Illyria, we're going to see those features get checked off the list one by one. And that's what I'm most excited about, seeing each and every little feature that we want in this amazing game that we're helping to develop and providing feedback for. I'm excited for every little piece that we add and we test, and I want to see that full list come to fruition. That's what I'm excited about. I want to go to the naysayers and say, nah, boo, we did it. Screw off, you know. That's what I want to do more than anything, because I know we can do it, and we got an amazing team, and we have a dev team that listens to its player base, and they can do some pretty awesome things, and I'm excited to see all of it implemented.
No, I mean, I think that's great enthusiasm, and I agree. I think that the studio is you know, everyone's going to complain about speed because they want the game right now, but we're seeing all these awesome things that are going to be implemented. It sounds like we're going to be downloading patches pretty frequently. That's kind of the impression I get. So what about you, Elbreth? What are you most looking forward to testing out in VoxElyria?
What I'm looking forward to is the sort of things that I think most role players and authors, writers look forward to in a game world. Basically, I've been trying to write out my character's backstory, and I've maybe gone through 3 or 4 drafts, and just every time we get new information, I have to change things up a bit. So what I'm really looking forward to is just kind of not the finished product, but just like a real concrete, tangible world that you can point to details of, and just sort of the tone of it. Is it going to be gritty? Is the game going to be sort of lighthearted or, you know, cartoony? Just sort of not a finished product, but basically a more something you can really sink your teeth into and actually see your character in the world and how they interact with it. And so I'm really looking forward to that aspect of it.
Well, we definitely agree there, because we know that
Yep.
the story is important, and I mean that's what this. If you read their description, it's meant to simulate how the players are going to interact, even though the graphic interface isn't as advanced as it's going to end up being. You know, we want to see it's literally going to be a role-playing platform, how it plays out. So, Noslim, aside from the graphical interfaces, how is VoxElyria going to be different from the finished product?
How's it going to be different besides graphically? That's hard to say. I mean, not very different at all. I would like to think. I mean, obviously, there's going to be some things that you know, in the mud you can you've seen it in the video, you can jump over buildings and whatnot. I mean parkour is awesome and all, but you're not going to be able to leap single buildings in one bound. You know, that's just not going to happen. But so there's going to be some limitations, obviously, but the core mechanics, the you know, of the back end, as they call it, all of that is going to be built in Illyria, and in combination with Kingdoms of Illyria, VoxElyria, and Kingdoms of Illyria combined. All the mechanics, all the features are going to be tested, and then they're going to roll that directly into the alpha, and then we're going to see, you know, what we've been testing, those features we've been playing with. We're going to see those with the pretty graphics, and so I don't know that there's any one particular thing. I mean, obviously, you're not going to be able to do jousting, okay, in VoxElyria. So there's going to be some things that are limited, and I'm getting some feedback. I'm not sure from where, but I can't put my finger on exactly what's going to be different. You know, we're going to be testing these features, and then they're going to be rolled out, and then they're going to be awesome and pretty. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing that I was reading was, you know, obviously in VoxElyria we're not going to see the level of combat that we might see in the finished product, and crafting interfaces I'm pretty sure are going to be a little bit different. Like, we can test out what we can craft, but it's not going to be as interactive as we'll see in that final game. So you had started to talk about Kingdoms of Illyria, and I think we can't talk about VoxElyria without talking a little bit about Kingdoms of Illyria, which of course is not the main focus. But DeLeathers, can you talk to us a little bit about KOE and what you know about it, what you're thinking about it?
Yeah, basically the VoxElyria is going to be, it's a non-persistent world. It'll probably be on one server, and it'll probably be wiped fairly frequently as we test out different mechanics, and they change things up and tweak things for us. After domain selection, KOE, which is Kingdoms of Illyria, will basically be an overlay over the top of Illyria, VoxElyria. And, you know, what is starting to excite me, again, even more and more about it is Caspian had stated that basically, you know, KOE is just COE, but with two exceptions. It'll include the features necessary to do kingdom, land, and domain management, which we pretty much knew was going to be happening. But then this also includes settlement building, architecture, construction, and the ability to zone land. In other words, you know, he had said that it's the mechanics necessary for someone to become a gentry, aristocracy, or nobility. And so if we extend that out a little bit further, we know that obviously that our characters or our family, our bloodline that we build in VoxElyria and in KOE, those characters are going to be gone, but the family kind of like remains, right? The bloodline remains. And so he would also mention something about, you know, would EP be able to be spent in Kingdoms of Illyria? And they were kind of like debating about it, and they were thinking, probably not a good idea, because if somebody spends EP in Kingdoms of Illyria and then, you know, builds a settlement on the edge of their county, and then that might get taken over, they actually start the game in exposition without that settlement that they spent EP on. But extending this kind of like further, taking it kind of like a little bit to the speculative range, I wasn't expecting to kind of like be able to do any kind of like real building or anything like that during either KOE, VoxElyria, alpha or beta, etc., that was going to be persistent. But it sounds almost like many of these things now that during KOE that is overlaid on VoxElyria that are built, like maybe settlements, roads and things like that, might be persistent and carry over into exposition and into the game itself. So, you know, when he mentions that it's the mechanics necessary to become gentry and aristocracy, and that there is going to be the ability to zone land and to construct and everything, is basically, have we been told in a maybe not quite so direct manner that we're going to be able to have people that are playing in the mud or KOE that can actually become mayors already during VoxElyria in the KOE phase? Are they going to be able to build settlements? Are we going to be able to build the walls and the roads and everything like that? Are we in fact getting a complete head start in certain respects to exposition? And that is, you know, I want to dive into that architecture tool, into construction, and, you know, and start building that stuff if it's going to be permanent. I mean, how exciting is that, you know, exposition has basically come early if this is the case.
Yeah, totally. I know that you have been very excited to get the opportunity to play around with those architecture tools. So I'm curious to see if that's going to end up happening. If we'll get, and I'm also curious, will they be in kind of the VOE graphics, or will we get some interfaces that are exactly as we're going to see them, you know, in the end product? I'm really curious about that. Now, Dee, you brought up something, and I wanted to jump back to it. EP and KOE. So this is, I'm going to read from the Soul Chamber, something that was posted, and I'm curious to get, and you've shared some of your opinion a little bit, Dee, here. That's something we've gone around and around about in the office. This is from the quote. There's two sides to the debate. Side one, KOE is world building, and thus the purpose of exposition and EP applies to KOE as well, i.e. allow players to use their EP during KOE, not just during exposition, to help steer and direct the history of their domain and settlement. Side two, people purchase EP to build the world after all of this stuff has gone down in KOE. Many people might be upset if they purchase something in KOE, build it, and then it gets destroyed, which is entirely possible. In the end, we're trying to decide which is the optimal experience for the Gentry Plus. We want to allow people to use their EP during KOE, but we're concerned that people doing so will lose their stuff at such an early point, may be upset, which turns us away from a decision. Noslam, your opinion on this?
You don't want my opinion. No, the thing I think some of the community say about me is they appreciate my candor. I don't mind giving you my opinion. EP is exposition points and should be spent during exposition. I'm a pretty simple guy. I just like to keep it straightforward. And so I don't think that there's any reason whatsoever for us to spend EP in KOE. KOE is our history. It's not. I mean, it's EP. It's EP that should be spent in exposition. That's my opinion.
Dee, do you have anything you wanted to add to that? Because you started to talk about it and you want to get a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, I'll try and be brief on it because I know we're kind of like hitting the time mark here. But for me, I do not want to see EP spent during KOE. And my main reason for this is if my hypothesis or my theory is correct that we can build roads and we can build, you know, buildings and everything like that during KOE, how different an experience is it for the players if it's, as a king, I just say, okay, boom, I'm going to plop a cathedral here, or boom, I'm going to spend money and there's a wall just suddenly springs up around the settlement that we just created, etc. How great and different of an experience it is for us as a community if we have to team together and we have to build that. And that is kind of like we built it into the history of KOE in VoxElyria, and it transposes over into, obviously, exposition and into the game itself. What we're now doing, or what SBS would now be doing, is they would now actually be allowing the bulk of the people, 95% of the players aren't kind of like nobility or aristocracy. They would basically be allowing a certain amount of ownership and pride and kind of like cooperation and building going on. And I just think that's just great for the COE community at large. If those walls are up when the game starts, and they can look at it and say, wow, you know what, we fucking built that, that's ours. Whatever else happens in the game, we built that cathedral, or we did this, or we did that. So that, I think, is it might not come to pass that that's how it pans out, but the potential of that has me very, very excited.
Absolutely. What about you, Elb?
Basically, I'm just going to agree with Noslem and D. I completely agree. I think KOE's got enough going on that it doesn't really need EP added into the mix. I think it's interesting enough. And D, I would say that it's actually our ancestors that built all those things, seeing as KOE is going to be before us. But I think, like Noslem's saying, EP should be spent during exposition. Doesn't really make sense to put it in for KOE.
So I'll throw my opinion in here, and then I have an important question for D from a member in the audience. So I'm kind of proposing something entirely different. I think we should be able to test EP, but not actually spend it. So when we do have like a thing that's going to be wiped, like during VoxElyria or before KOE is like officially KOE, where we're, impacting the future, I think it would make sense for people with EP or people that are planning to spend EP to kind of be able to play around with it and see what they would be capable of doing once we're in actual exposition. So I agree. I don't think that EP should be spent during KOE because just like Noslem was saying, EP exposition points, like it's in the name, it makes sense to have it there. But I think it would be good for us to see exactly, what are we going to get in the kits if we were to spend this, and how can we spread that out, and how will the trading mechanics work? Because there's been some talk about you purchase something with EP, but maybe you give it to one of your townspeople to help them grow their business. So what's that going to look like? What are the trade mechanics going to look like there, and how can we spread that wealth out? So I think that would be a smart use of VoxElyria when it comes to EP, but that's just my 2 cents. So, D, important question from I Am Medusa over in the Twitch chat. They are asking, why the mask, King D? Why the mask?
Why the mask? I guess I could give a lot of kind of like different flowery answers, but the honest truth of it is I'm basically almost a 60-year-old goat that's disabled, and I just thought it would be a hell of a lot more fun to put on a mask and have a little bit of mystery than see some old fart flailing around on his bed trying to answer questions.
Well, I think that the mask is very interesting, D. Personally, I think it's the most exciting thing people have seen. So, I Am Medusa, I hope that was a sufficient answer. Baneworth says nobody cared until you put on the mask. There you go. It adds interest. So we are coming up to the end. I am going to announce the live stream winner for the coded message. I'm just waiting on a couple more votes there. So I think we have the winner. But I do want to say before we wrap up, thanks to everybody who tuned in. And I believe we saw Kaizen and Serpentius, so thank you too for dropping in, and everybody that's been chatting over in our Twitch here. We do want to come back and do another live stream on this topic as we get more information. This was just kind of the very beginning. As we're getting more information, we're going to be able to talk about it in so much more depth, and we over here in Boardwall are very faithful that this is going to happen. This game is going to get rolled out piece by piece, chunk by chunk. We're going to get to play around with these features, and it's going to be awesome, so we're looking forward to it. So, without further ado, our winner for the code, which was Mrs. Jones has put the empty kettle on the stove is... I like how we're getting like first, second, third places over here. I guess I will announce the runner-up. First, the runner-up was I Am Medusa. Well, Mrs. Jones is a mother of 6 children who are all fighting for her attention, and she just forgot in her frustration to fill the kettle up. Good job, I Am Medusa. So that was the runner-up. The first place winner is... The terrible effects of Alzheimer's had her forgetting the water. The kettle quickly melted, and the fire spread quickly. Luckily, her soul was... Oh, no, things are being deleted in front of me. I can't read them. Technical difficulties.
What was that?
It's called Katie Started Deleting Things.
I think the soul basically just burnt all of the words, right? As it exploded.
Okay, so redo. Second place was, which I don't know why it matters, because second place, sorry, you don't get anything. The best hiding place for a murder weapon is in plain sight after all, and that was Sherry Lane, I believe is how that's pronounced. And then first place, which I don't have a name on right now, was the terrible effects of the Alzheimer's had her forgetting the water. The kettle quickly melted and the fire spread quickly. Luckily, her soul was ready to transfer into an error she had set up. So the person who typed that...
I believe it was Banemorth.
Banemorth, if you are here, can you type us something in chat so we can see you're still here?
That wasn't confusing at all.
Banemorth.
Not at all.
No, not at all. It's... chat windows all over the place. That's what that was. So, congratulations to Banemorth. Delethris will be in touch with you. Thanks for those of you who tuned in. If you have any requests, we will be doing our next live stream on the 26th. And there's a rumor that there may be costumes involved because it's so close to Halloween. I'm springing that on these guys right now. They didn't know about that. So, Delethris is going to have to come up with something else.
Shit, I'll have to be the only one that shows up with that one, right?
Oh, yeah.
She's dressed up like a zombie. So, yeah, if you do have a topic you'd
That's
be
my
interested
normal
in,
look.
let us know. You can let us know in Twitch or send one of us a message if there's a topic that you would like us to take into consideration for the next stream. And we will hopefully see you on October 26th at the same time, same place. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, we had 30 viewers pretty much the entire show tonight on our second stream. That's awesome. Good job. Thanks to all of SBS that showed up. See you here in 2 weeks. Thanks, guys.